Ladies and gentlemen, please give a massive round of applause. If you can stand up. Put your hands in the air right now for the Lord, the only, the President of the United States. Thank you, sir.
My dear folks, let's give it up for the one and only immortal President. Nobody alive. It's pretty beautiful faces out here. I want to salute each and every one of you for coming out tonight. It has already been so overwhelming to me. I'm overjoyed. It's so special. Each and every one of the voices and the artists not just moved me and us emotionally, psychically, and spiritually, but also intellectually, so we have a sense of the whole, and that's what it's meant to be part of an overarching movement. You see, this campaign ain't nothing but a moment in a movement. That's what it is. My dear brother Jim, Sister Diddy. Oh, I love and respect you all. Let's give it up for both of them. Let's give it up for both of them. Oh, yeah. I got a gift. Brother Randy Credico, just day before yesterday, we were in front of the White House after the peace pilgrimage march from Philadelphia, 150 miles from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C., and we had black preachers, pastors, we had rabbis who ceased fire and end for occupation, we had imams, we had Hindu leaders, we had a variety of folk marching for 8 days, and we got there to Washington. There was Brother Randy Credico. We went to jail together with Brother Randy and Carl Dix and so many of the others, and he had this magnificent salute to Julian Assad, and I got a chance to say even more words about my dear brother Julian. Let's give it up for our dear brother Julian. Let's give it up for Julian. Electing you. Moving through Jamal and Leonard Peltier, H. Brown, so many, Asada Shakur. We go on and on and on, the political prisoners in the American empire. But when I had a chance to make it here, and I just got off the plane, just a few minutes ago, I spoke this morning at Mother Emanuel, where a sick, decrepit white brother named Delan killed 9 precious black folk in that church. That's the Church of Denmark Vesey. You all know who Denmark Vesey was in 1822. He led a slave insurrection. And I told him I had to get back to New York, not just to see my precious wife, but to make sure that I could become a part of this gathering. And my God, it has been so magnificent. Give it up for yourself. Give it up for yourself. Mr. Carmen, you wrote, my dear Belafonte, you write about those who came before. Our young brother, Henry, bouncing off his magnificent words with our Palestinian brothers and sisters, raise the issue, is it really too late? What does it really mean to live at a moment where it becomes more and more undeniable that the American empire is declining and decaying? Been 70 empires in the history of the species going back to Africa. The United States empire is number 68. And empires come and empires go. They come and go. And it's ugly. Usually it's military overreach. The United States now has 62 cents for every dollar spent for the military. Boundless resources when it comes to imperial wars but let's talk about our children's education. Let's talk about our workers' wages that are livable. Let's talk about our citizens gaining access to safe communities and decent housing. Let's talk about free health care. Let's talk about free education. We don't have a penny. You see, that's the warped priorities that reinforces the worst of an empire unraveling. If we need more voices, my voice is just one small voice among others. I'm just a wave in an ocean. And that ocean is a tradition. And I begin on the chocolate side of town because my mom and daddy were chocolate. See, I come out of the Black freedom tradition. I'm unapologetic about that. That doesn't mean it's some dumbed down neoliberal identity politics. Not at all. Not at all. That's not Harriet Tubman. That's not Ida B. Wells Barnett. That's not Fannie Lou Hamer. That's not Martin King. They start with their ROOTS and dig deep in their particularity so that with their ROUTES, the routes that they take, they end up in solidarity with precious Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza and the West Bank. Why? Because there's a moral and spiritual imperative to be in solidarity with anybody who's suffering, no matter what color, gender, sexual orientation, or national identity. When we're living in a time of such overwhelming barbarity, I would say bestiality, that's being unfair to the beast. True. Dostoevsky pointed out in that novel he wrote, The Brothers Karamazov, right before he died in June of 1880. He said, what is it about the wretched human species that finds such gratuitous pleasure in violence? Sadistic, sociopathic, psychopathic, somehow having hedonistic investment in trashing and subjugating other people. That's not lions or tigers. I don't even think the cockroaches go that far. I don't know. I haven't done my research on that. And so we have to be very honest and candid about the voices of our young brothers and sisters like Henry when he said, I don't want to puncture your optimism, but is it too late? What about the cynicism? What about the fatalism? What about the nihilism? What about the inability to conceive of not only a vision, but an institutional capacity that can give that vision flesh? My response to my brother is, I don't know. I'm just trying to be honest. The only way we can answer that question is to answer that question for ourselves. What kind of human being are you going to choose to be making that trek between your mama's womb and the tomb? What kind of integrity in the face of oppression? What kind of honesty in the face of lies and crimes? What kind of decency in the face of assault? What kind of courage in the face of violence? Brute force. You have to answer that question for yourself in the context of your tradition. Or traditions, because all of us are products of a variety of different traditions. No such thing as a monolithic, homogeneous tradition. All of us pulling from a variety of different traditions. And this is why it goes so far beyond any kind of narrow talk about electoral politics. We all know that American electoral politics is, for the most part, legalized bribery and normalized corruption. We know that. No doubt about that. And even as the bona fide gangster, Brother Trump himself, neo-fascist to the core, still tied to big business, still tied to big military, and willing to push the country toward a second civil war. And then here come Brother Biden. Weak as pre-sweet Kool-Aid. enabling genocide in real time. Enabling ethnic cleansing in real time. Enabling apartheid in real time. And we're supposed to choose between Civil War II Trump and genocide Biden. Moving toward a third world war, maybe with Russia, maybe with China, maybe in a regional war, and we wonder why our precious young folk of all colors look up and say, oh my God. And I tell them over and over again, just like I tell my precious brothers in prison. I've been blessed to teach in prison for 41 years, beginning with the Black Panther Party's program in 1970, because I was right. We had the breakfast program too. I love the Panther Party, but they wouldn't let me in because I'm too tied to Jesus. That Palestinian Jew named Jesus means too much to me. And so they would say, I'm Christian, that's all right, I love them to death. But I come in on my own terms. I got my own voice. I got my own vision. We have deep solidarity because we are committed to the wretched of the earth. We want to turn the world upside down and put poor and working people at the center of it. At the core of it. And that's what brings me to the secular politics of an Edward Zaid, or the prophetic Judaic politics of a Rabbi Heschel, or a Noam Chomsky and Stanley Aronowitz, who I still so deeply, deeply love. Or an Anbeka, the Dalit brothers, or a Chief Joseph of our indigenous brothers and sisters, or Russell Meade. So many voices, crucial voices, traditions at our back that inform us and instruct us and inspire us. That's what we need. Because you see, I come from a black folk who've understood for a long time that for us, Pharaoh is on both sides of the bloody Red Sea. What you gonna do? The promised land turns out to be just another site for Pharaoh. My dear brother, Al Sharpton, God bless his soul. He gave a talk a couple of months ago and he said, Martin Luther King Jr. stood up on the mountaintop and I'm going to tell you what he saw. What did he see, Brother Sharpton? He saw Black President Obama. He saw Kamala Harris. He saw black professors. He saw black doctors. I said, Sharpton, quit lying. That ain't what Martin saw. What did he see, brother? I don't know what he saw, but he didn't see that. What he probably saw was more pharaohs in different colors who pose as if they're on the cutting edge for justice, but simply rationalize and justify the crimes of the empire and the crimes of predatory capitalism and the crimes of patriarchy and the crimes of homophobia and the crimes of transphobia and the crimes that lose sight of the humanity of any people who've been hated and terrorized and traumatized. Because Martin always kept track of the least of these. He was a Christian black minister. That 25th chapter of Matthew, connected to that hesed, that loving kindness, that steadfast commitment to the orphan and the widow you get in Hebrew scripture that our Jewish brothers and sisters unleashed into the world. You don't find it in Homer. You don't find it in Virgil in the West. Or you can go to Africa and find it in the Book of the Dead, absolutely. You can go to other cultures, indeed, indeed. But when it comes to the West, with all of its so-called sophistication, they reach the conclusion that greatness is associated with Alexander and Napoleon. For conquering, for subjugating, for plundering, for exploiting. What makes them great other than they simply had huge amounts of territory that they subsumed by military means? No, we need to go back to traditions. And those traditions can be found in every prophetic version of a religion. They can be found in every secular conception of the world that puts a premium on oppressed people. They can be found in all a variety of voices in the history of our civilization as a species, but it's always a slice, a cloud of witnesses. Just like I tell my brothers in prison, I can't talk to the sisters because of the segregation. They don't allow me on the other side. But I tell my young brother, just like I gave my dear brother a hug, I said, you never know whether it's too late or not, but never be surprised by evil or paralyzed by despair. Because what you think is Pharaoh on both sides of the bloody Red Sea. I come from a black people, a great black people and tradition. And at such a moment, somebody said, somebody sing a song, please. Raise your voice, because the artists have a role. They're the vanguard of the species. They're the vanguard of freedom movements. They're the ones most free enough, courageous enough, visionary enough to tell the truth. And yes, the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. Yes, justice is what love looks like in public. Those are not just slogans, they're lives to live, which means then that when they talk about Palestinian babies, we tell the world over and over again, those precious babies have the same value as any babies in the world. I don't care if those babies are Jewish babies, Iranian babies, black babies, indigenous people's babies, and it may sound simple, but it has subversive implications. It has revolutionary repercussions, because it means that we're willing to live a life and we go down swinging in that life. And you see, I come from a people who have always been on intimate terms of catastrophe. That's why we are blues people, because the blues ain't nothing but catastrophe lyrically expressed and artistically transfigured. Nobody loves me but my mama, and she might be driving too. That's B.B. King. That's the B-side of The Thrill Is Gone. And he's out of ground zero of the black freedom struggle of the American Empire, which is Mississippi. Delta, Mississippi. Guess where I was this morning? South Carolina. Those are the two ground zeros for black freedom struggle. Meaning what? Well, now that the whole planet empire has the blues, maybe you can learn something from a blues people who were told every generation, just like my precious Palestinian sister said, there is no alternative. There is no alternative. Frederick Douglass, who you gonna vote for in the 1850s when you got a choice between a liberal slaveholder and a conservative slaveholder, and you an abolitionist, you want to abolish slavery? Well, I found a different party. It's called the Liberty Party. It's gonna be connected to a movement. It's just gonna be a few thousand of those abolitionists, some Quakers and Mennonites and black enslaved dignified Africans, but viciously attacked with white supremacist lies. Yes, but look what happens. They become the canaries in the mine. Sooner or later, you're going to have to come to terms with this barbaric slavery. Well, you just marginal now. Yeah, chickens come home to roost, you know. Sooner or later, you're going to reap what you sow. Sooner or later, you're going to have to come to terms with your repressing. The return of the repressed. I'm not just talking about Freud and Lacan. I'm talking about historical phenomena. We put it in the tradition of the black freedom struggle. Truth crushed the earth will rise again if people are willing to stand up and straighten their backs. And anytime oppressed people straighten their backs, they're going somewhere, because folk can't ride your back unless it's bent. And that means at that moment that the elites, the oligarchs, the plutocrats, the patriarchs, the xenophobes, they start trembling in their boots when everyday people begin to straighten their backs. And it's always a matter of social movements. It's never just the vote. is never a politician. It's everyday people coming together, raising their voices that then create possibilities so that then you end up with a voice that says that I say, I want to be head of the American empire in order to dismantle the American empire. That's what I'm about. We don't need 800 military units around the world. We don't need 130 countries with special operations. We don't need trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars spent on war manufactured equipment where the war industry has profits beyond description. We don't need a military budget that has the next 8 countries combined still less than our military budget. America can be an experiment in radical democratic arrangement with one nation among other nations rather than an empire with other nations deferring to us in light of the empirical aim of domination of every corner of the world. You say, well, Brother West, you know that has a chance of a snowball in hell. Really? You see, I come from a people who looks directly at mainstream discourse and then injects blue notes in it. Duke Ellington said that black people made dissonance a way of life. We live in the minor key. Live flattening the note, under the note, on top of the note. It's called swing. And Duke said it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And all swing has a sting. It's a hit. It's like a Muhammad Ali hit. He's a blues man in the ring with a style that's off the beat, that's polyrhythmic. Like Stubblefield get the drummer song at James Brown's band. Yes. What is it to be tied to catastrophe, not allow catastrophe to have the last word, and looking for a different conception of time? So you're not tied into just the choice between Civil War II and World War III. That's what this moment in a movement is about. Well, Brother West, how you doing? Well, now we already got Alaska. Isn't that interesting? Alaska's the first state to step forward to put me on the ballot. Oh, yes, we got Alaska. I think that Brother Edmund. I think that Brother Edmund here, one of my co-campaign managers. Now, I've never set foot in Alaska in my life. And Alaska, God bless them, they look more like the National Hockey League than the National Basketball Association. I'm not just talking about the polar bear. But all the human beings up there, precious, they got a universal basic income in the Aurora Party. And they said, we notice on your platform, which we go into details, I won't go on all of it now, but you got universal basic income because you're an abolitionist when it comes to poverty. I want to abolish poverty. I don't want a liberal version of it. I don't want a conservative version of it, just like Frederick Douglass, just like Ida B. Wells didn't want a liberal version of Jim Crow and Jane Crow. She wanted to abolish it. I want to abolish homelessness across the board. We could do that quickly. Billions of dollars is now spent. We just had an allotment of $200 billion for new B-21s. We got 100 of them. Each one costs $2 billion. But we can abolish poverty and homelessness. And I'll tell you one thing. I'm thoroughly convinced that Biden's going to run out of gas. I don't even think he's going to be the candidate for the Democratic Party. But they got to go to their B team. B team doesn't look too strong. Let's just be honest about it. Let's just be honest about it. Trump might be on his way to jail. Go to the B team. Oh. Sister Nikki, the only one left. Oh, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Oh, we moving toward low comedy, aren't we? But here's this consistency, this constancy. Keep telling the truth. Try to touch the people. Try to push the people. Try to get them to see the world through different lenses, not just by words, but by deeds, by connection and relation. And yes, even trying to get inside of their skin and view the world through their lens enough so you're able to be not just more persuasive, but you put your body on the line every week, on the streets, willing to go to jail. How come? That's how I decided to live my life. That's how I roll. That's like being a blues man that writes the most beautiful music but can't blow a note. Or sounding good in practice. But when it's time to hit the stage, you can only play in the key of C with no black keys on the piano. Yes, catastrophe, swing. And then what's the last element of the great black musical tradition, which is the greatest tradition of music when it comes to artistic creativity, spiritual fortitude, and moral courage of the 20th century, and that's improvisation. People always make fun of you. Oh, Brother West, you run around talking about you a jazz man. That's not being a politician. I said, that's a compliment. You're absolutely right. I'm not a garden variety politician. I don't plan on being a garden variety politician. I am who I am. I empty myself in terms of what has been poured into me with the love and courage and integrity of Irene B. West and Clifton West and Shiloh Baptist Church and the Black Panther Party and Curtis Mayfield. And when I look at the political terrain, I said, yes, we need a whole new framework, a whole new lens, a whole new paradigm of what it means to be a force for good in politics, as opposed to just conforming to the prevailing framework of politicians. And that's simply just allowing that rich tradition to spill over with all of that wrestling with catastrophe, wrestling with different conceptions of time and vision, and then being fluid enough and flexible enough and improvisational enough to keep your timing in place. I'm not worried about any one of these polls that my dear brother was talking about. You're absolutely right, brother. It won't take me. Not at all, because I want to peak at the right time. And I can tell you this, when you look at us in September, October, and the first week of November, they're going to say, what is going on with that campaign? Oh my God! They're going to peak all of a sudden. You look back and you see all of these magnificent human beings concerned about poor people and working people and the empire dissolving and solidarity with Gaza and oppressed people. Yes, indeed, that's a possibility. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee, but we can tell you this. The guarantee is that we never sell out, we never give up, we never cave in, because we're going to go down fighting and swinging and loving and laughing in solidarity with oppressed people around the world. Yes, what a way to live. That's what we're talking about. God bless you. God bless you.